Hey everybody, it's Doug Schaeffer with Remax Oceanside of MakeMaineYourHome.com. Whether you're watching this or listening to this, please make sure you hit subscribe and then also hit that little bell so you can be notified when new episodes come out. In this week's episode, I'm going to talk to you about how to buy a home from your home. So let's do this. All right, guys, we're going to talk about how to buy a home from your home. With what's happening nowadays with the quarantine and social distancing, there's some people out there that really just need to buy a house. And if you're watching this because you need to buy something and you're just not sure what to do, I hope that this can help you out. So I've broken this down into 4 steps. Step number 1 is getting pre-approved. And we're going to sit down with a lender to talk about how they're getting people pre-approved right now with social distancing and everything like that. There's been a lot of technology where you don't even necessarily have to sit down with the lender. You can do a lot of things over the phone, video conferencing, digital signing, things like that. But we're going to talk to the lender exactly how that stuff goes. And then step number 2 is going to be finding and securing the home that you love. This step is always like the most fun, to go out and look at houses and things like that, but it's a little different now, so we got to take some precautions, and I'm going to explain that. Now, step 3 is once you're under contract, we got to inspect the house. We got to send a building inspector in there to check out the house and tell us potentially what's wrong with it. The inspector I use is great. His name is Brendan Lucier, and I'm going to sit down with him and talk to him about some great new technology that he has using 3D videos and video conferencing and things like that. So potentially you don't even have to go to the house to have the house inspected. So that's really great. And then lastly, we're going to talk about title work and how we actually do the closing with social distancing and all that stuff. So, let's jump right in and let's sit down and talk to Casey Hamlin with North Point Mortgage about getting pre-approved. All right, everybody, I have the infamous Casey Hamlin here with us, and we're going to talk, Casey, about step number 1. It seems like you're always number 1 in any of these processes. You're like the first.
That's a good thing.
Right? Casey's number 1.
I like that. I like the sounds of that.
Right, exactly. So step number 1 is getting pre-approved in this, buy a home from your home scenario. And geez, even in a normal, world, people don't necessarily have to meet with you. I know you prefer it, to have people come in and kind of, meet them and kind of go through everything, but it's not a necessity, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
it's actually really easy.
Right. Why don't we talk about, just the process, like, up until like, before we go into contract, let's just get people pre-approved. What's kind of the process like? And, do you set up like a video call or, how do you work that out?
Good question. So what we'll do is we'll either do an online application with them where a buyer can fill out go to the website, at their leisure, whether it be, night or weekend or whatnot, and fill out an application. Yep. Or we have a questionnaire they can fill out, or we'll do a phone call with them to get the information. And then we do either a Zoom call or a follow-up call to kind of go through their qualifying.
Okay. All
the documents that we need, they can do online. They can just drag and drop and that sort of stuff. So, the notion that, that it's a big, that they need a printer and that they need to, a bunch of stuff to be able to do this, not true.
Well, most things that you probably need, they already have electronically, right? Like statements and stuff like that. What are like typically, like the average person out there, what kind of documents would they need to round up and have ready for you to say, hey, well, they wouldn't hand it to you. They'd click upload, here's all the documents. You're like, what's the list there, that they
Great question. Yeah. So I would say, when a buyer, you want to think like income and asset related. So like anything like pay stubs, most recent pay stubs are things that we always ask for, and we continue to kind of ask for as we go through the finance process. Depending on the situation, that we might need their tax returns for the last year. If they're self-employed, sometimes 2 years. And then as far as bank statements, we ask for the most recent 2 months worth of bank statements.
Okay.
Basically, wherever they're going to take the money from, we document. So that's kind of what we'd ask for.
Right, because they got to prove like where the down payment's coming from and all that
Right.
kind of stuff. Yeah, sure. Okay. Right. And again, most people have that. And if they have paper copies, they will need to scan it or whatever to get it to you.
Yeah.
You know,
We actually have a third party site too that we'll use, that if they don't have access to the documents, or if you have like a small credit union, sometimes it's hard to get stuff online. And
okay.
they can just plug in some information, and we can do it through a third party without them having to do anything, actually.
Oh, interesting. So they'll go get the documents for you on
Yep.
like their behalf or whatever. Oh, that's
Yeah.
geez, that's great. Awesome. Okay. All right. So you get them pre-approved, and then of course, we're going to move on in a minute here to step number 2, which is finding and securing the house. But let's just talk briefly about like we get under contract. What's that process look like? I mean, I know you can order the appraisal and all that kind of stuff. But what do they need to be prepared for through that end of it?
Well, kind of the same stuff. I mean, as time goes on and they start receiving more paychecks and more bank statements, that sort of stuff, and just let the lender know if their situation changes at all, if they've experienced any decrease in income, or if the job situation has changed whatsoever. They want to let the lender know so they can, try to work with them on solutions. So,
Okay.
But in general, just like continue that paper trail of what they started with.
Right. So the basic gist of getting pre-approved and move through the financing process, just have your paperwork ready at all times.
Yeah, really, it is. I tell clients, like, start like a house folder,
Mhm.
and just put stuff in it as you get it, and then when we request it, you can just go and pull it out of it. It could
Great.
be electronic for that matter.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, this is probably the easiest section, even though it's number 1. It's probably the easiest part. Just contact you, Casey Hamlin, and then have all your paperwork ready, and it's good.
Yeah, I agree.
Nice. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks a lot, buddy. I really appreciate your time today.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and we're gonna move on to step number 2, finding and securing your home. So let's do this.
All right, step number 2 is finding and securing your home. And in normal circumstances, this is probably the most fun part of your home search and the whole process, because you get to go look at houses, check out neighborhoods. It's a lot of fun. But with what's happening now with coronavirus and social distancing, we really got to be careful, and there's a lot of precautions that we are taking. So the biggest thing that we're doing is making sure that you review all information and make sure it's a place that you may have interest in before we even think about going out to see the house. So like for searching for a home, there's a lot of online, search engines for houses, realtor.com, zillow.com, remax.com just updated their technology and bought a whole new back-end system that is really fantastic. So there's a lot of ways to review houses online. If you have interest in a house, you send me, your broker, an email or give me a call, whatever. Just say, hey, this is the house I'm looking at. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send you all the documentation. On the back end of the MLS system, I can get the disclosures. If there's any other documents, I can have conversations with the listing broker, see what's up with the house. If there's anything that might flag it saying, no, that's not the one for you. Or we get all the information to decide that, hey, we really like this. So that's one thing, when you do like it, I'm going to send you all the documentation and make sure you review it all. And then let's see, do drive-bys. You can still get in your car here if you have an interest in a property, drive by, check out the neighborhood, make sure that it's an area you want to be in, and really just kind of make sure that it's the property that you want. So once we reviewed everything, you're driven by it, you say, hey, I really like this property. It seems like the place I want to live. Then we decide if you want to show it or not. There's a couple ways to look at properties right now. If you want, we could do a virtual showing. I can be the one that goes to the property. We can do, video conferencing from our phones, FaceTime, something like that, where I'm showing you around the property virtually. And me as your broker, of course, I'm looking out for your best interest, so I can look at, all different scenarios and really hone in on exactly what you want to see and make sure that the house is exactly what you want. If you're comfortable going to the house, we can also line that up. I would meet you there. We would stay 6 feet apart. I always bring masks and hand sanitizer and gloves. If you don't have those things, simply let me know. I can bring some for you. But that's how we're going to do this. Maybe it's one of those things where when we're there, you go in the house, you go look around, come out, and then I go in and look around and come out, and we can like wash as we need, coming out, and make sure we don't touch a lot of things, all that kind of stuff. So that's your options as far as looking at properties. You can either do it virtually or we can go there. Either way, we're going to make sure that everybody is safe. So that all happens and you say, I love this property, I want to buy it. The rest of the process is pretty simple. We can talk over the phone. We can do Zoom meetings, video conferencing to talk more about exactly what we want to do. As far as signing documents and contracts and stuff, we have digital signing technology. We've had it for a long time, so we don't have to meet up for you to sign on the dotted line. And this is all done through email. An email gets sent. You click on a few buttons. Documents are signed. We can do all negotiations to get you under contract and secure that property without having to meet. All right. And then from there, we go through the rest of the process. So saying that, let's move on to step 3. All right, guys, I am here with Brendan Lucier with Pillar to Post. We're going to talk about step number 3 in our how to buy a home from your home. Brendan Lucier is building inspector, and he's got some awesome technology. So let's jump right in. So Brendan, before you show off this fancy new technology that you have, tell me, how are we doing inspections nowadays? From what I understand, like it's just you guys, the inspector at the house, right? You don't allow sellers, buyers, or anything there, right?
Right. We're following the guidelines from the Maine Association of Realtors. Unfortunately, we're doing inspections solo. That's what we're brought down to us.
Right.
But we have some good new technology that I think will help out with a lot of that.
Yeah. Now, are you?
That we're happy to
You broke up a little bit there for a second. What was that?
I lost you for a second.
Yeah, I think we're back now.
Yep.
Good old Zoom meetings.
Right.
Yeah. Now, do you have to prep like the seller on what to do, to have them clean before and after or anything like that, or how does that work?
We do. We leave it. We get in touch with the listing agent and the buyer's agent. We let them know our procedure. We wear gloves. We wear masks. We are very thorough and clean everything that we are in contact with. So yeah, it's quite a process. We also leave a letter to the homeowner, basically outlining what our procedure is. So they're a little less concerned overall. I mean, obviously with someone entering someone's home this time of with what's going on, people are concerned. So we try to do everything we can to ease their mind, really.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. And then obviously you're working for the buyer, at this point, in most cases. I know you do like pre-listing, inspections, but for the most case, or for the purpose of this conversation, you're working with the buyer. It's got to be strange,
Right.
like not having them there, to be able to follow you around. I mean, in my eyes, it's like that was always kind of the best part for the buyer, to be there with you. So.
Right.
And I know you've always done great reports, like nice written reports, and you go through them and all that stuff. But let's talk about the technology that you have nowadays, or what do you use to show the house off and go through the report with people? Right.
So we use a new virtual tour inspection software. It's called PTP 360, and what that does is it pretty much takes a virtual tour and integrates our inspection report into the tour. So not only, without clients not being present, they can view this tour endless amount of times. They can navigate through, they can see our report, and all that good stuff. So it's definitely helped on that aspect of everything. Obviously, nothing is as good as a client being present at the house, being able to explain everything. But we've got a lot of good positive feedback with this. We've had multiple clients say, I know we couldn't be there. However, I feel like this is the second best, to be able to have this type of technology and be able to show it to the client and buyer and whatnot. So
Right. So why don't we take a couple minutes and take a look at it? I mean, I love this technology. I think it's awesome, and I've had some clients use it already, and it's really great. So yeah, here it is. It's
right.
why don't you kind of give us, take a minute or two and kind of show us what it's all about.
Yeah, so here you go. This is the front of the house, and this is all, you can move it around, you can zoom in and out. And these hotspots will bring you in certain areas of the house. And really the coolest thing about this technology would be if we had an issue in any particular room, let's go into, for example, let's go into the kitchen here. Let's go into the kitchen. And if you look in this corner, it pulls up any issues that were in the kitchen. So if you go to click on this, basically what it states is that there's a garbage disposal with a septic system. So it pulls our inspection report into this tour.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
For each room that you go into, and you'll see a check mark saying you've already visited that area, and you're able to just navigate through the house. It gives you a good floor plan. It actually will give you measurements as well, very accurate measurements of all the rooms. And we get a lot of questions. People ask, well, geez, this seems like a lot, especially, we're there doing the inspection, we're there, looking at a lot of things. It really only takes an extra 10, 15 minutes at the end of the inspection for us to produce this.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
So the technology is absolutely amazing. To be able to produce something like this and be able to show the client, and whatnot, I think it really helps out a lot. So that's really the software in a nutshell. There are a couple more features that are going to be coming out soon with the dollhouse view, kind of similar to what the Matterport is, but that's going to be coming out within the next couple of weeks. So.
Right. Well, geez, another great benefit to the floor plan that they get is, measurements for furniture and all that kind of stuff. Because,
right.
That's another piece of the puzzle that, everybody always wants to run in with their tape measure and, figure out if their couch is going to be there, especially like this giant couch that I'm seeing on the window there.
Right. Right. And the cool thing too is if you go to, you can actually get more detailed measurements as well. So you can get wall measurements that actually you can get measurements for, I wouldn't set in stone, but you can get window measurements and stuff like that. So they can be pretty detailed in some matter. So there's a couple different options for the clients. So
right. Yeah. So exactly. Even, they don't, if they're a high risk person and don't ever want to go to the house, after they get under contract or whatnot, they can get a good view of it with this. That's great.
Right.
Awesome. Well, cool, man. So I guess the last piece, you can unshare if you want. The last piece of this is, once you're done with that and you have it, what's the best way to go through the report with them? I mean, is it over the phone? Are you able to do this type of conversation? How do you do that?
So we always encourage clients to set up a webinar. We send out an initial email, and this is a time where we can get the real estate agent, we can get the buyer. They can even have family members come on if need be, and we can pull up, and I can share my screen. I can pull up the inspection report, and what we do is we go through the whole report with them. We can go back to the 360 if they have a question about a specific area. We can go into the 360, we can zoom in on it, we can show them, we can, it's quite a bit that we can do, and really, thoroughly go through the report almost as if they were there. So what we've been doing is blocking off our later appointments, our 3 or 4 o'clock appointments, and setting aside that amount of time for all of our inspectors to go through that with clients.
Right.
It's worked out very well for the most part. So
Yeah, I know. You did one for me with a client, and they loved it. They lived down in Massachusetts, and they were like, "Man, that was awesome. It was like being there." And they
Right.
didn't have to, hop in their car and travel and all that stuff. So,
Right.
Brandon, I really appreciate it, man. Stay
Thank you.
out there, stay healthy. What do we do? Virtual handshake, right?
Virtual handshake. There we go.
All right.
Thanks, Doug. You take it easy.
Thanks,
All
bud.
right. See ya.
All right, guys.
Yeah, bye.
All right, guys, we're going to move on to step number 4. All right, everybody, I'm here with Eric Schaeffer. He's with Schaeffer Douglas Title Company, and we're going to talk about step number 4 of our process. You're the last step, Eric. I apologize about that. But
No, we're the end of the train, so.
that's you're used to that, right? So what we're going to talk about is, title and closing, and kind of talk about maybe just a couple things regarding that. But I'd love to hear from you. I don't think we have to get into too much detail as far as like how a closing normally goes, because there's other videos people can watch regarding that. But right now with coronavirus, what kind of precautions are you taking just for like the normal closing right now? How does it look?
So right now we've limited the closings to only the parties necessary to sign. So that's the buyers and then the sellers. And we're asking the sellers to come a bit late. We're placing them in separate rooms. We are sanitizing with Lysol before and after every closing, spraying the door handles. Everybody gets a fresh pen on the way in the door. It's theirs to keep, and if they don't keep it, it goes in the trash. And they're at the one end of a 10-foot table. We're at the end of the other. That way we control the environment. We know everything's clean. We're obsessively cleaning everything. And then we treat it like a air hockey table almost. We're sliding the papers all the way down the other end of the table, and just having folks execute and fling it back.
So you're having a little bit of fun with the air hockey then, right?
We are, and I've gotten pretty good at it over the last month. And we're sending the entire package to the buyers and sellers each ahead of time and asking them to review it, so that way we can minimize the time at the closing. My fastest refi so far has been 7 minutes. I've done a buy side as fast as 12 minutes.
Wow.
So that's indoor and out, minimum contact. Also asking folks to take a picture of their driver's license ahead of time and send that to us via email.
Right.
That way we don't even have to grab their driver's license. We can just verify when they show up that it's them.
Right.
Brokers,
so
loan officers are welcome to wait outside in the car to say hi as people go by,
Right.
but limiting it to the necessary parties.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. So the good things that I took out of that was, I mean, they're getting documents ahead of time. So really they're just coming in to like do the necessary signing. And that's
Correct.
it. And cleaning everything on your way in and way out. That's awesome. Yeah, good.
And they've already got their copies. We don't have to make copies for them other than running the settlement statement and the deed or the notice of rescission on a refi, running that through the copier, but we can even just email that to them after the fact if they don't want to wait for a copy. So.
Yeah, gotcha. So one thing that just popped in my head though, like, buyer, like, do they need to do anything afterwards? Like, kind of normal stuff, like, the seller doesn't have to go and pay off their mortgage or anything like that. You guys take care of all that stuff behind the scenes, right?
That's correct. Everything's wrapped up in that settlement statement. So any loan payoffs, any bills that were required to be paid as part of the transaction, taxes, all that stuff, water, sewer, gets handled out of the closing table. So it's the sellers can just tell us to wire their funds afterwards. If they give us wiring instructions that we can confirm, so they're not even waiting for a check from us. The buyer can simply wire the funds in. They don't have to bother even going to the bank to grab a cashier's check. They can just initiate a wire to us. So.
You do that, right? Yeah, sure. So to kind of stick with my theme of buying a home, from your home. There's a couple things that we'll touch on. First off, we heard recently in the news that digital notaries are now at least allowed, but not necessarily with all banks. So what can you tell me about that?
So that was an executive order that came out just over a week ago, actually a week ago yesterday, I guess. And it was really drafted more for the estate planning bar to help with the execution of wills and trusts, so that older folks could still do estate planning without having to meet. It can work for the real estate side. It's a bit cumbersome, and I actually, frankly, just did my first finance transaction with it yesterday afternoon. It went well. It's a bit cumbersome. The parties have to we have to be on a recorded conference. They have to actually show every single page to the camera to show that it's there. Initial each page. They've got to scan everything back to us immediately after the closing, so that when they send the originals back to us, we can compare the two. But the big thing is that the bank has to approve it, and there are some enforceability questions, legal issues surrounding what might happen in bankruptcy court. Governor Mills has some power in the state of Maine, not so much over the federal court system. So there's some legitimate concerns on the parts of the lenders that they may have legal issues down the road. So far, most all of the lenders have said no to this. The one that allowed this, it was a portfolio loan, and it was a measure of last resort, and they had to jump through a bunch of hoops to get to that point. But in the case of a cash deal, a seller signing a deed, this is perfectly tailored for that. So we can certainly do it on a cash sale. Buyers don't have to sign anything that's notarized except for one document that frankly is more of a seller form, and our underwriters are okay if they just sign it with no notary. So on a cash deal, buyer does not need to come. And frankly, the seller under this new audiovisual notary piece, we can arrange that too at that point. So.
Oh, good. Okay. So it just gets complicated if it's financing. So, we'll have to keep an eye on that. So the only other option I can think of, if somebody really is, like a high risk person or is already ill but still needs to get this thing done, is like get a power of attorney. If they have a relative or something like that that is not a high risk and is willing to maybe go to your office. Talk me through how something like that gets set up. Like, do you guys do the power of attorney for them? How does that work?
Correct. We can draft the power of attorney. They would still need to sign it in the presence of a notary to make that power of attorney effective. If it's for a finance transaction where the bank isn't going to permit the audiovisual notarization, it's probably not going to fly to do it that way. But the good thing is it's a single signature. So whether, we just meet them outside, put a table out there for them to sign the form where we can see them from the door, and then they walk away, or they just come into our office. We did do this with somebody who was concerned and left it on the table in the conference room. They just came through the door. We could see them from 15 feet away, sign it. They left a copy of their driver's license, and they were good to go. So it's a 5-second transaction at that point.
Right. So it's just one quick. They could get all masked up in gloves and come in and all that stuff. Okay.
Correct. And at this point, it seems I think we probably have Lysol fumes just hanging through the air throughout the entire office.
Right. Just the dust settling down. Right. I know somebody who used to go to houses to notarize. I'm not sure if they're still doing that right now or not, but I know that's maybe an option. So.
Correct.
Now, and I will also say, because I had this happen recently, was, like if somebody happens to be in the hospital or like a medical facility, a lot of those facilities have notaries on staff.
Correct.
So if somebody is legitimately ill and in the hospital, they could still get that notarized there and get it over to you, right? Without having to come in.
That's correct. They are welcome to use their own notary if they can arrange it.
All right, great. All right. Well, hey, that's all I got for you.
Yeah, and the one other thing, if you've got out-of-state buyers or sellers, they may not want to come, and frankly, depending on where they're coming from, we may not want them to come. We did have somebody coming from the New York City area and said, thank you, but let's figure out some alternatives. But we can reach out through our underwriters and find a local agent, title company, or a law firm, and arrange for them to meet somebody out of state. We've done that multiple times in the last couple of weeks. So.
Right. Yeah. Do a mail away. Yeah. We've done that before.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. So then they don't have to drive or fly in here. Oh, nobody's really flying, but get in here. Yeah. Okay. Well, great, man. Hey, I appreciate all your info.
Great to see you.
Yeah. Good to see you, buddy.
Looking forward to actually seeing folks beer in hand, not through a video screen before too long. So.
Exactly. Be able to shake hands and all that stuff.
Exactly. Or at least we may be stuck with fist bumps for a while, but we'll get back to the handshake eventually.
All
So,
right, man. All right. Hey, thanks a lot, buddy.
great to see you, Doug. Thanks.
So, hey guys, hopefully this was helpful, talking about how to buy a home from your home with the 4 steps. Step number 1 is get pre-approved. Step number 2 is find and secure that house. Step number 3 is building inspections. And then step 4 is closing. If you have any comments or questions, you know what to do. Comment below, send me an email, you know how to get in touch with me. And remember, if you're going to make Maine your home, you don't have to do it alone.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching or listening to the Make Maine Your Home podcast. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to subscribe to it, hit the little bell so you get notified when new episodes come on, and share it via Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or wherever you hang out. And be sure to check out my website at makemaneyourhome.com, and of course my YouTube channel at youtube.com/makemaneyourhome. And as always, remember, if you're gonna make Maine your home, you don't have to do it alone.